So, okay, so hackathon's happening in April, mid-April. It's going to be a conference starting first. So the purpose of this call is to let everyone else who's watching or whoever's here understand what is the general hackathon information. So start date of after April 16th. How long are we going? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. The general hackathon theme. So are we going to have a theme? I know right now it's kind of just open web, come here and build cool stuff, get to know about Near. But are we going to have maybe like marketplaces, VR? There's a lot of different places that we can take a specific theme so that you can build anything to do with NFTs, but we're really going to focus on potentially one aspect of that. And then the hackathon structure. So still maybe, but like specifically talking now about like when is education week going to happen? Are we going to have workshops throughout the weeks? Or are we going to keep most things to the weekends, stuff like that? So as we get into when is the event happening, as I said, we're going to have a kickoff with a one-day conference hosted by Dystopian Labs, and that's going to be on April 16th. So I already kind of put here, as people are talking, I know we were talking with Lewis, and he was saying potentially having extra time for devs to submit ideas or like find teams as well. So he was saying that this could be more developer friendly. So instead of pushing everything into a 2-day period, we could have it stretched out if we had the resources to do so. And I think this comes down to kind of understanding where our resources are. But I think and that's kind of goes maybe the theme and stuff like that. So does anyone else have any ideas about, okay. I think that's a wonderful idea. I'm kind of jumping around some of these slides, sorry. So on to the next slide, kind of like who's coming. I kind of had like, create base as a theme of people. So that, we're doing that whole Aras Guild to see, other going on. Somnium, I'm, hopefully having some events there. And the Music Guild as well. So I was thinking of having a kind of create base call type thing where we have a proper, what's it called, air meet, conference session where we can have mixers at tables and we could maybe have people who have more of an idea set up and like submit to have a table, let's say. So if someone was like, hey, we are 3 people from the Music Guild, we have an idea for this, you can name your table, whatever idea, and then maybe having some like a list of these are people's ideas, these are some tables we can sit at, if I'm a dev, or I guess vice versa, but I feel like from the create base side, we have a lot of idea people, a lot of creatives, and not as many devs. Like so we have the ideas. So maybe if we had like, hey, for this hour, we have these tables full of ideas. If you don't have an idea as a dev, come take a seat. Some musicians or some, visual artists will tell you everything they got. Does that seem, do you have ideas about like air meet? Do you hate air meet? Is like, do you have oh. Yeah, thank you. And I think what made me think off of that was like, even we could make tables on the fly. So like, let's say the Music Guild has had 2 tables that they were mostly sitting at. They could even, like, there could be multiple ideas like specific ideas at that table, and they could branch off into other tables as they were like, okay, two of us have these specific ideas. We found a few devs that might want to work with us. Let's talk for a bit, and then these ideas can flourish like that. Van, would you have another point? Or, okay, perfect. So that could be. Yeah, that makes sense. I think having, especially just, we already have people coming for Create Base, we're already recording the meetings. I think having people come for now from the Music Guild, from Create Base to a similar site that they're used to, and then trying, we've been talking about having matchmaking sessions for a while. So I think this also kind of kicks our butt into gear and actually getting devs matched with creatives to actually get things built for a timeline, which is really cool. So perfect. I'm glad we moved along with that. Any other comments before I move on? Sorry, Kara. That that would be great. Honestly, I think that would be awesome. I think because we have so much flexibility in this event, hackathon, education session, I think as many people, like honestly, I think from my personal standpoint, get people involved into this Discord, at least one person from each project who is actually going to be a stakeholder. And we have these calls on like a weekly basis. We share the information, but I think having people on board that want to educate, that want to get devs on board building with them, I think that's how we're going to get more people excited, and hopefully eventually like building on near, which is, I think, the goal for everyone that's involved here. But yes, definitely would like more information about that. Like, I think I already know about it, but oh gosh. Okay, so sorry. On this same slide for who's coming. So yes, we have Create-based stuff. We'll have our mixers. We will try and make sure before the event even starts that we have some ideas and some teams that are ready to start hacking. For Dystopian Labs, they're going to be pushing people from pretty much from tomorrow. They're going to start marketing the conference, and we're going to have a website pushing people to Gitcoin Hackathon and to the NFT track specifically. So far, I mean, what I think personally is that as people come right before the event, that's when it'll be important to make sure there's educational resources for them. Because I'm assuming a lot of Dystopian Labs participants are going to be from Ethereum, Solana, a bunch of other chains. And so coming to a one-day conference is not necessarily going to make them want to just build on near. So ensuring that there's a very easy to understand pathway to get started where there's incentives to start learning, I think is really important. So I think for that, also why I'm happy, we got Lewis and Carol and Mint-Based crew on the call, because I'd love to have some sort of, you go through this one day or one weekend experience and you have something on mainnet. And I think that Mint-Based allows for that type of experience where you can go through a one day, a few hour tutorial, and you can have a mainnet application that you run and you build, you can play with. So that's kind of in my head an experience I'd like to create in general. And then I think for Gitcoin people as well, someone coming from Ethereum who already knows how something works, if they can just pop over and have a mainnet contract on Near, that's a pretty good pull. I know for me, when I was building on Ethereum, it took me a really long time to get. I think I still have nothing on mainnet besides my mint-based contract. Like after all these years, it's just like it's really hard to get a DApp on mainnet, and so I think just pushing that would be really cool, personally. And then I think again from Create Base's standpoint and the Music Guild standpoint, we have a lot of people who are just interested in NFTs, who just love NFTs, who just think about it all day long. And I think it's really important to get them in the pathway of hackathons, maybe not to build something for this hackathon, but in 2 months' time, if we explain to them how easy it is, we explain to them how much support there is, maybe in 2 months they will have their, as there's mint-based tutorials out about how to import an API quickly, maybe they will have a website come out in 2 months' time. So that's kind of like the people who I have coming, my main ideas, and yes, please do. Hmm. I really like that idea. I like the idea of it, again, being less hackathon-y, where you win a prize at the end if you win, and more of just come here with an idea, get a team together, and if you complete this certain pathway, you get this prize. It might take you, like, okay, up to, like, some sort of timeline that makes sense. But at the same time, I think, it's more about just getting people to build, and we incentivize them doing it in, let's say, a 3-week pathway, like Lewis was saying. But there can, we have create-based calls regardless. Having an extra once a month matchmaking, that could be, I think, what Van was talking about. Maybe that could be part of the matchmaking session, is have, let's say, like a half an hour matchmaking session, half an hour present what you've been working on, and just keep that being a progressive thing. I think that's a great idea. Hmm. Agreed. I think it. Yeah, two weekends, or I guess, or longer, depending on how things go. I definitely agree. I think that there's a definite, like, there's a difference between, here, come with your amazing idea that's definitely not going to take 3 weeks, and maybe get funding over the next 4 months, or like, hey, I really want to get this done. I really want to do it in 3 weeks, but then at the 3 week timeline, it's just not there yet. And so it's like, okay, well, I know that, for example, the Near Certified Developer Program, they have something similar where it's not just a week-long course, and then either you pass or you fail, or you can literally just come back anytime, redo anything, and anytime that you submit your project, you get the certification, but then you have to keep coming back, and you have to keep going to classes and helping with PRs and helping with the code. And so kind of taking a little bit of that spin, where it's like, we definitely want these projects done in the time frame of the hackathon. And I think a lot of the prize pool, a lot of the incentive should go towards that. I think maybe even calling it like an extra, like a, maybe even we can, for marketing purposes, or like the way it's seen, it could be like a different pathway of, hey, you didn't get done in time, don't worry, we have this monthly process at CreateBase where you can bring your project, and people who did complete a project can still be a part of that reiteration process and program. So I just think the idea of having that mixer be a monthly, like, session, like the first or at the beginning certain day of each month being a create-based mixer to mix creatives and devs, and have them showcase projects, would be good. So I did want to note that we did have this point here We came up with it for the conference, and I think that it's kind of good to note like what the conference speakers are going to be hearing that this is. So to join us on April 16th for a one-day open web protocol agnostic summit that will be focused on NFTs, DAOs, and social tokens. Attendees will learn ABC, and so we're going to hopefully have them learn whatever our theme is. And so if we have a theme. And so some of the themes that I just came up with, like I know Nate always talks about usable NFTs, like actually getting NFTs usable in the hands of people. I think that could be possible over a few week time period. Marketplaces, like I know people are asking for different auction functions, different liquidity functions, taking tokens and wrapping them into things, all kinds of crazy stuff. So I think there's like a whole idea of just like implement any old NFT anything, but can you show us a really cool marketplace? VR implementations, and I know that everyone loves showcasing, I know Lewis especially, but everyone loves showcasing their NFTs in VR of some kind. And I think it was Nate's story on Instagram where you were talking about like the idea of you don't necessarily like the idea of closed virtual worlds, and you believe that like the idea of the virtual web is like everyone can go anywhere and you have your own space like a website and you can just pop in and pop out. So I think a lot of those ideas of just I think VR and crypto right now is very closed. It's like you pop in for an event here or there, or you buy some land to show off your art, but it's not just, oh, let me throw up a website and show off my mint-based art. That I own a contract, I own a website, it's all mine. So I think that could be a really cool avenue to take things. Education specifically, like let's get people into Figment. But in that first weekend, maybe like encouraging people to showcase the best near articles that helped them through a difficult problem, or some sort of way to incentivize maybe creating resources that they didn't find when they were hacking along that first week. So maybe just like trying to find a way to focus on education for the first week or for the whole time period. And then the whole idea of like in general NFTs for all. Again, kind of going back to that idea where CreateBase and a lot of the NFT space is not full of devs. I think it's a really cool area because a lot of graphic designers who understand code and a lot of like web designers, but a lot of people though aren't devs. And so, how do we push them along the pathway of still enjoying a hackathon? And I think, Vandal's point as well, making sure we have mixers from before the event so that when the mixers of the event happen, there's a lot of people there and stuff like that. But any ideas about themes? Let's feel free to talk about it. You could add themes. You could talk, Lewis, feel free to talk about your VR. Like I always love hearing about the VR ideas, but yeah. Awesome. So I think personally, I've been actually thinking a lot about like that flow or the idea of trying your best to not get people to have to go back to the wallet as much as possible, especially in a VR flow. I think that's obvious, something that's important. And I know that exactly for the near, you need to have the approval for any like near transfer for security reasons. But yeah, I think there's a big difference there because we're talking about DAOs and social tokens, and obviously these social tokens are not going to be near, so you might not need that. Like so the or like so if you're voting on a DAO and let's say getting like, I guess it depends which way the interaction is going. But you could be in a VR world exchanging social tokens that could have high value to vote in some DAO, for example, and you wouldn't need to leave that experience. I think that's more than just like it's a UX difference about when you're trying to build in VR. You want to have something the flow actually be different. I think that's a really interesting like specificity that Near has, where you can have that flow. You just need to know how. So I think that's really cool. I'm sure Vandal, you'd love to get something going in some sort of a music aspect. Do you have any ideas, like specifically maybe about what you'd want to see being incentivized in like the NFT music space? Yeah, go ahead, Jordan. So, and on that, I was also thinking, so I know because in the previous meeting, I know there's an idea of having Sputnik's funding ideas like top down, and I think that potentially for the way the music guild runs, it could be a really interesting idea for the timeline of the hackathon, or even let's say it was happening from April 1st. The idea of just incentivizing, like people can propose to say this music idea DAO, or this hackathon idea DAO, and just propose fresh new ideas and get incentivized just for that side of things. And like I know I don't know if Sputnik V2 is going to be ready in time, so I think whenever I have these ideas, there's multiple pathways of if people can. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if my connection. Oh, it is still on. Okay. And then people can like vote or on which proposals they want, or someone can be in charge of taking those ideas that come out of the proposals and like using those moving forward. But the idea could be that funding, people can spin off new Sputnik DAOs based on the ideas that the community liked, and funding could go from the main DAO to this DAO with a council that is taking charge of that idea. And so, for example, the idea of like, if you have a decentralized record label, where does the legal aspects of that come from? Like, who's in charge of making sure there's legal standards for the audio industry? So someone has to research that, someone has to pay for that. But that's where there could be a general music DAO that has some sort of funding and is pushing the ideas for a hackathon. And then there's, let's say, 5 or 6 people who are going to take charge of that idea and run with it and get funding for that. And they could have a DAO spinning, and those DAOs can last after the hackathon if they have funding. But again, just a way to have some of these issues be more long-lived than a few weeks or so. Yeah, like DAOs funding DAOs to kind of solve the small problems they have. So like the main DAO would be, okay, our problem is that on Near, for example, we want to have decentralized record companies be viable, and we have X amount of money, and we have like 4 or 5 people with this vague goal. And then, but to do that, you might need 5 or 6 people on legal, 5 or 6 people on, matchmaking, 5 or 6 people on whatever. So the people on matchmaking can send proposals to the main DAO saying, hey, we need $1,000 this month to do this matchmaking event. People on legal can be like, hey, we're having a meeting with a lawyer in a few weeks. We need funding for this. And so each council, though, each 5 or 6 people can be in charge of ensuring that their tasks are managed kind of, I guess, as an experiment of, as an experiment of whether that can work. Yeah, no worries. So that's why I kind of just put growing Sputnik here as a potential. So here I think we already talked about the majority of this. So this is the general timeline that I had kind of looking in my head. And then so I talked at the beginning that Lewis's comments on this were that, potentially having only one weekend to hack would be too short. So I kind of, in my opinion, left this is what I kind of see the beginning of it looking like. Making sure everyone's educated, making sure we know what's going on and people are finding teams, and then a hackathon. So whether it's 2 days, whether it's 2 weeks, whether it's 3 weeks, I think I personally don't have too much of a preference. I think giving devs time to get together, come up with their ideas, submit projects, earn along the way, hopefully in near, so they're incentivized. I think those are all, it gives us more time to plan these things, especially because we do have growing communities in CreateBase and in the Music Guild, where we are, like, it's not just like we're having a hackathon event and people, like, we have people to push into these things, into these pathways already. But if anyone has any more ideas on this, I think the idea right now is to have more time than 1 week to hack. I think that Vandal's point of having the matchmaking happening April 1st kind of changes this timeline here as well and allows for the hacking to happen on the first weekend, since we will have teams prepared from the 1st of April, potentially in some way. So I think that already gives us 2 weekends of hacking here already. And I think maybe having one extra weekend could be viable and give us the 3 weeks. If no one has any specific comments on that, the last slide was just general thoughts if no one has any comments on these specifically, you can either add some or we can end the call early. But this was just some general thoughts about, like, for example, how do we build something on Near in 3 days? So to Lewis's point, maybe not, maybe have more time. I was talking to some, to Kaner actually specifically about the issues that he had trying to get something on mainnet, trying to build something on Near, and he was basically saying that, like, it was very, very difficult. He had a lot of issues, and the only reason that he went through it was because of the educational support that he had, and he basically had a lot of help specifically with the indexer. And if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have done it, and it still took him months. So trying to figure out, okay, if we know that this is an issue, how do we just solve that off the bat? So, having an indexer standard before the hackathon, for example, so that people can just throw up an indexer on some cloud somewhere and get started. So it's a 1 day project, not a 1 month project, ideas like that. The storage standard for in the NFT, like I just read one part of it uses the storage standard, but one part of it doesn't. So is there a way that we're going to generally talk about this? Like, people aren't going to know about storage that come from other blockchains. So just a thought, like, how are we going to communicate to devs, this is what storage is, this is how we deal with it, so they're not spending, again, a week or two learning about storage instead of a week or two hacking on a project. And then I know, like Jordan was saying, I definitely agree that hackathon is not about having a polished project, but I'd hope that people would feel, somewhat confident with what they're presenting, have something somewhat working, and hopefully they want to stick, like it works enough and it's easy enough to build on Near that they want to continue long past the hackathon's over. So those are like my general thoughts. And the only thing I had under bounties and prizes was what Rogan's comment was about incentivizing a project that tries to build in community spirit. I think a lot of things that push people away from hackathons is the drive to win. I think a lot of people like that, but who are like, okay, I just want to hack and learn and not necessarily win something. So having some sort of, like, it could be a prize pool, it could be a bunch of prizes. I had the idea of maybe just giving some Near to, like, Music Guild members and to CreateBase members that they just give to projects that they think are supporting Near ecosystem. Just like, oh, this is cool, your idea is cool. Maybe it could be just for ideas. So you have a cool idea, here's people from CreateBase and from the guilds can vote on these ideas and just support each other. But any comments about all of that? Sorry, I talked a lot, but feel free to comment, add, or whatever else. Okay, cool. That also works for me. I know we did talk a lot and we got a lot of ideas, so I appreciate everyone's input. I realized that my recording did work for my audio, but I didn't get the audio of everyone else, so that's going to be interesting. But we do have the updated slides. I'll make sure those are up. I might still put this recording up on YouTube so that it's here and it's available for what I was saying, at least. And the plan is to have another one of these so we can talk async about, like, what times work best, what people would like to see done. But I think most of the discussion should be async in Discord for now. So if people have ideas, if they have links to share or anything else, please share them in the NFT Track Discord, and I'll share things there as well. And we could move forward having this fun event together. Lewis, if you want to share any of your VR like stuff with Nier specifically in that chat, please do, just so like other people that pop in and see can have ideas as well of like what's possible, what might be cool, what ideas might be there. And then some of these specifics about like how much should we, like I think I'll talk to Vandal specifically me about some of this stuff, but like how much should we be incentivizing these ideas, you know, what like for this air meet, like I have no problem running it, but you know, Vandal, you're pretty, you know, you're up there in the, you know, you're head of the music guild. I'm sure you'd want to be talking to a lot of, I don't have the kind of crazy cool ideas that you artists have, so love all the support in that area as well. So awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, definitely feel free to invite people here that show that they, you know, actually care about the planning. I know not everyone enjoys that part of things, but some people do. So thank you everyone for coming. We can end the call early. No point taking the whole hour. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, thanks. Bye everyone. Have a good day.